Hello and welcome to our brand new series, The Best of Fintech. Now, over the course of the Virtual Arena, we recorded a lot of content. And what we've gone and done is we've edited together the best snippets and stories that we thought from each region. Now, on today's episode, we're going to be looking at the best neobanks coming out of the Asia Pacific region. Now, I know a lot of them have already taken headlines before, but we spoke to them one-on-one in the Virtual Arena, and I'm really excited to showcase some of the stories here today in the Best of Fintech Asia Pacific Neobank Edition. Your customers can get cash, but they can get other things from, as you said, education, Wi-Fi. Now, how do you go about doing that? How do your branches go beyond just collection points for offering up all this plastic?
Well, a school is a bank branch. So, like within Haiti, where hundreds of thousands of children can't afford to go to school because the government can't pay for the education system. So every family pays $20 a month to have a child go to school. Well, beyond the realms of most. So now we educate the school that then engages families and says, well, when you collect enough plastic and you bring the plastic, you can pay for the school tuition and your child can be included. We also provide insurance packages around that as well. So once a child begins going to school, if something happens to the income of the family, it doesn't interrupt the education of the child. You see, it's a huge multiplier as well, just in that concept, in that when you're using plastic to go to school and you got, it's easy to collect $20 worth of material over the course of a month. And now the family looks at the material profoundly differently as well. And this is one of the great multipliers, which is why school tuition is so important, because it's not the $20 a month. Like, they don't look at it as plastic. They don't look at it as packaging. They don't look at it even as the $20 a month. They look at it as the end of poverty, because your poverty won't leave the family unless the children are literate. Like, if you can't even read or write, you're doomed to poverty. And so see, it's escape, it's hope, it's opportunity, it's seeing into the future. That's the multiplier. It gives access where it wasn't available before. Now, I continue to be in the communication over these things because this is really what the plastic bank is. It's not the money. It's not the plastic. It's the access that it provides. What kind of access does credit worthiness provide? What other small business could we provide? What other opportunities are there for us to distribute products through people who we know are reliable and consistent? Untold.
What are the next steps for Plastic Bank in the short term, and really, what's going to be happening in the next couple of years? We've already talked about your kind of global expansion as well.
Yeah, certainly growth is critically important. The ocean can't wait. We need to be everywhere. We have a few models that are exponential. Schools certainly exponential. When we consider growth around the world, we know that the fastest way to expand is that we don't have to build anything. So if we don't build anything, well, what does that look like? Well, schools, every small village, no matter where you are, engages the community, and we need to begin changing the paradigm in children so that they know that by stewarding the environment that poverty can leave the family. That's a powerful message on its own, one that would just that thinking can change the world. So that certainly is there. And then congregation as well. When we look at temple, mosque, church around the world, every small village has one of those as well. And we've created some powerful programming for faith-based organizations that encourage the parishioner to not just bring in their tithing or offering, but to bring in their recycling as tithing, which is also globally exponential. So how might I create bank branches around the world that truly engage every community? Then there's cooperatives and a bunch of other things, but we're growing quickly in that manner as we continue to create a licensing type model. What really is on the horizon for us is to return the material we collect, social plastic, at below the cost of traditional recycled content. How might I provide material that helped change the world and kept it out of the ocean and be less expensive than regular post-consumer material? That's what we're on the precipice of. And we'll be doing that through licensing and a few other models for our customers, so that there will never be any reason for the world to not change and shift. So that's what we know we need to do. We've got to be better, faster, cheaper, and we've got to be more powerful and gain more scale and find more customers and continue to create the demand, the pull for the material that then creates the demand inside the heart of the collector to go and pull more material as well. We need to be in every single household. It can't be just collectors that are out doing it full time. What we really need to do is create a space for every single mother that, looks at the material that comes into her house and says, oh, that's for me. I'm endeavoring to create a universal basic earned income for every household so that the mother can look at it and go, oh, every month, just based on our consumption, I bring in an extra $2 worth of materials into the house. They're all resources that I return into the process. So it could be returned to manufacturing. And that $2 gets me Wi-Fi and cell phone minutes and access to clean water and insurance policies, while also earning me the ability to prove who I am in the world so I could borrow money in the future as well. Because if I know that consistently you can borrow $24 or you can earn $24 a year, I can loan you all kinds of money that can change your life, of which you would then pay back in plastic. Because we created a monetary standard in the high level of it. It's really about creating a standard of exchange and a methodology of exchange of material resources. Now, we're not just plastic. We, also collect, paper and, aluminum and everything else as well. We will be the world's largest commodity broker.
You've brought up several instances in Asia and sort of some really exciting innovations that are coming about because of embedded finance. I think I'm going to ask everyone this question, but if I could lead with Pablo, I'd be interested to hear, Pablo, what region you think is taking the lead when it comes to embedded finance, because there's so many different exciting perspectives, and as Sean said, some really exciting ones over in Asia. But can I come to you first with this one, where you think you're seeing the most innovation?
Yeah, of course. I mean, and we're, from our, vantage point, obviously, working in LATAM, in Mexico, Brazil, Colombia, we're seeing a lot of this. From what we're seeing, it's anywhere from super apps, marketplaces, high GMV, e-commerce, things like selling cars online. And a good example of that is Sean was talking about Grab in Southeast Asia. There's Rappi in LATAM, started as a food delivery business. Now they're doing they're basically providing banking services, and they're doing all of that through embedded finance solutions, right? So I think what we're seeing is it's really exploding, and it really depends on how much growth, how much room for growth there is in the region when it comes to closing the gap. Not only in fintech, but in financial services more broadly, right? So, what we're seeing in LATAM, and this is pretty applicable to other emerging markets, is to close the gap versus penetration of financial products in general versus Europe and North America, is huge, right? So, for example, in LATAM, credit card ownership is 20%. Right, versus the US where it's like 65, 70%. A region like LATAM, 500 fintechs were started last year alone, right? So I think the more opportunity there is to serve clients better when it comes to financial services, the more room for growth, right? So, and you look at some of these countries like LATAM is a prime example. The financial services sector is concentrated, in a very few number of institutions. That's hindered competition, that's hindered innovation, and that hasn't fostered financial inclusion. So the bigger the gap to close there, the more opportunity for folks coming in with embedded finance offerings and serving clients ultimately better, faster, cheaper.
Would you say that ELAS is primarily focused on trying to improve financial inclusion for women? And ultimately, are you looking at bringing new financial services to those women, for instance, investing, as you mentioned, later on using ELAS as that platform?
All of this means that we are going to work in the female and woman inclusion in the finance, and financial inclusion is an important point in our bank. But we cannot do that if you not make these people capable to invest proficiently. So first we should teach them how to invest, how to open a bank account, how to use the computer, how to deal with the bank account. So we are going to to make them capable to work in finance, to do finance. And then we need to make finance be important for them. And so we need to conceptualize and transfer this concept to them. And in that point, we was thinking that many of them are really much difficult. So we decided that if you work with artificial intelligence and we do a robot to operate the investment, it will be much more easy for them if they invest by the objectives they have in life. So you enter in the bank and you choose, I want to have a house, I want to have a car, I want to pay for my daughter university, I want to have money for my retirement. You just choose this one pick and the computer and the robot will do everything for you. So it's what we are working on it. We are producing artificial intelligence, and we are the first bank in Brazil that are going to have a robot to women to invest and to choose the options of investment that they have to get in the objectives they want in the future.
We talked slightly about independence and being able to effectively allow women to create their own financial stability. How has COVID-19 impacted the banking needs of women since the lockdown? And a lot of women have potentially been stuck in houses with violent partners.
What happens here? The lower classes suffer much more because they are not familiar with using a computer, but they are familiar with using the telephone, the mobile telephone. You know, Brazil have the most extensive use of mobile telephone after United States. 80% of the population have a telephone and can use this. So if you do an app that they can use by telephone, it will be easy for the woman to deal with it. So what happened? Everybody stay at house. Everybody do homework now. So many people looked for apps and start to use the digital services to do everything that they do in the normal lives. It improved our access to the digital world. So economic became a digital world now. And it helped us. Many women open bank accounts now. Many women add to the app services. Now we extend our services for our population. It helped us not make damages because we are not so big now and we don't have many expenses. We started our business with our money, so we are pretty saved and security in this crisis. But there are some fintechs that are suffering and probably some of them will disappear, but others will come on because they have had before the crisis venture capital and then they are okay to working for 12 months or 2 years without having more investment. So it helped us, I think.
From my research, one of the other large parts of government-backed fostering innovation attempts was CODI or CODI. At TORY, would you be able to fill in a few of our viewers into that?
Yeah, so late last year, the Central Bank of Mexico, they implemented a standardized QR payment system called CODI, short for Código Digital. And essentially, that allows for participants of CODI to be able to use those QR codes to do, interbank transfers. So being able to, send money from one bank account to the next. Kind of together with the fintech law, I think Mexico's really done a lot to really, push, financial inclusion and getting different tools into people's hands. We've seen, QR payment systems successful, in other parts of the world, where they may face some similar difficulties or constraints around how they're able to spend their money. So I think it's great. I think it's useful. I don't think it, however, solves, all of the need that's out there. To fulfill this kind of vision of financial inclusion, we want, more than just be able to transfer from a bank account to a bank account. You're really left still. I mean, to do that, you need to have a bank account. And so with the vast majority of the population that does not have a current bank account, it still doesn't fill really the needs of everyone. And obviously financial inclusion, I feel like it's definitely more than just sending money from one hand to the other, but you want to be able to save your money. How are you being educated around your money? Are you able to invest your funds? Do you have access? Is it secure? Do you have confidence in where your money is held? I think there's a lot of different dynamics and facets to what financial inclusion is, and I think what Mexico and people that live here and conduct their spending and transactions here and what they would like to see. So Cody, I think it's a great push, but there's definitely a lot of room to solve a lot of needs in the market. And so I think the agility of fintech companies that are passionate about solving those problems is what Galileo really looks to enable and get excited about.